Okay, hi, good evening. This is Dr. John Bennett from Miami, Florida, with another of the series of Google Hangouts to introduce, uh, for introduction more or less to the conference at the end of the month up in Indianapolis, a watch conference, watch-society.com. Tonight we have one of the organizers, one of the team of the watch, Dave Martineau, MD, a hand surgeon from he's practicing now in Dayton, Ohio, and we're going to talk to Dave about his background and Google Glass and hand surgery and how he came upon it. He's the guy you have to blame for me getting involved. We were Dave shot me an email. I guess you saw a hangout we did with Chris Vukin in Michigan, who does work with Google Glass and CPR. And Dave shot me an email and says, "Would you interested in doing some hangout?" So here we are. Good evening, Dave.
Good evening, John. Thanks for having me.
Sure. Okay, Dave. Let's just go over your background. First, start. You seem to be pretty computer savvy. Did you get into computers before you started medicine, or is that kind of like developed alongside it?
Nah, computers has sort of been part of my generation and how I grew up, and so all throughout my training, which started in Michigan for undergrad, I went through University of Cincinnati for medical school. I mean, everywhere you go, computers are just an integral part of the education. It seems that, of course, those of us remember back in the day the size of the computer and sort of the cumbersome nature of it and how far it's come up until this point, which is one of the things I'm wearing on my face and has sparked a lot of our conversations and really has launched this whole watch society, is really having the power of a computer that you can wear. And so technology is something I've always been interested in, and it's sort of it's been a part of my practice, and I see really the benefit of the value that the technology can bring to field of healthcare, because that's really what it's about. It's about adding value to healthcare, and how do we do that? One of the things I think is going to help us is technology.
You know, Dave. That brings up another kind of big point. I don't know if you read about Eric Topol. He's kind of like the John Nasta, a writer for Forbes Health, calls him Dean of Digital.
Okay.
He's a big guy out in San Diego. He wrote a book called The Creative Destruction of Medicine, and essentially outlines what you just talked about, the digitalization of healthcare in many areas. And in one interview he had with Tom Getz, who was the editor for Wired magazine, he said that there's Paul. How you doing, Paul? Oh, what's
Hey, what's up?
what is
What's
that?
going on, man? What do you got there?
What is that?
No, I didn't have anything cool. I figured Dave would have some cool loops or something. So this is my prototype. I read it in the Future of Wearable Tech when I was looking in some Chinese magazine, and like that's what I came up with.
What the heck is that?
What?
What is it? Is that like a Google Glass type thing?
I don't know, some crap. I ordered like one, and I got like
Oh,
this box that looked like contraband, and it was like 50 of them. Like I got it off some Japanese or Chinese website.
That's awesome. All hype. We gotta, for people just taking screenshots of this event, you should just show you with that on and call it the latest and greatest new thing. You'll get, that's hilarious.
Yeah, you get a dot on your forehead. It's my site.
oh, it's a HIPAA compliant.
Yeah, that's funny. Oh, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, we're.
Thanks for filling in.
Yeah, we have no.
I'm trying not to annoy you anymore.
Yeah, we have no set agenda, Paul. So
What?
we were just talking about how Dave got into Google Glass and computers. Like you younger guys, I mean, it wasn't part of my generation when I was going through school. Forget it. There were no computers around. Period. I mean, I'm 64, so when I was going through school, there was nary a desktop around. There was nothing around. But you guys, when you went through, I guess smartphones were just coming around, right?
Smartphones are making it big, and computers were everywhere. The electronic medical record, of course, was making a huge push in America. The funniest thing was, all throughout my training, the places that I was training at were actually a little behind on the times when it came to adopting electronic medical records. And so I never really got into it until I actually got started in practice almost 3 years ago. And suddenly, from the time I hit the door until within a few months, I was my group's sort of electronic medical record guru. I had to sort of pick up on that stuff pretty quick and was willing to contribute. And so that's sort of where a lot of this took off, just kind of by happenstance. So like, yeah, one of my partners back my previous group joked that because I wore an Apple iPod on my wrist as a watch, that qualified me to be the EMR guru, and I thought that was pretty silly, but it's suited me well.
Well, so you were the nerd of the group, Dave?
I joke and call myself the CEN of my current group, the Chief Executive Nerd. So.
Oh, really? Yeah, I'm proud to say I'm a nerd too, and I'm proud of it. I'm not ashamed, and I'm always glad to meet other nerds online. You can tell the nerds; they're just spend all the time on the internet like I do. But
Paul's more of a jock. He seems to bike a couple hundred miles. Just
a cool guy with these.
Well, I couldn't stand to spend that much time away from the computer, taking a bike ride. Now, you go on long bike rides, Paul, right?
Yeah, not too bad. I mean, usually about 40 to 50 a day. Like, sometimes I'll go 100, but, that's a real big day.
Yeah. So you bike to the hospital from home?
I do. 21 miles each way.
Oh, okay. That's your exercise for the day.
Yeah, I leave about 5 o'clock in the morning to get there by 6:30, and then whenever I get home, I get home.
Wow. Well, anyways, Dave, okay, so you were introduced through computers because of a generational thing, I guess, millennial generation. When did you first become exposed to Google Glass? When did you first come upon it?
That was several months ago, I think in February. So I had originally come upon Glass when they first were releasing it, but I didn't have my, literally the finances to afford it. And there was a lot of stuff going on, and I thought, yeah, it looks nice, but boy, I don't have that kind of dough. But I got, I got situated here in Dayton, got a great thing going, and it just sort of came across on an email, sort of a invitation to check it out. So I looked at it, and I thought, yeah, it's time. I went ahead and got a pair and just been running with them since.
Was it you just apply, or was it the kind of thing where you have to be accepted to
That was, yeah. When I got mine, you had to apply to buy them. So you send in an application, and they ask you, what are you going to do with them, and what's your specialty, what's your field. And I told them, I'm an orthopedic hand surgeon. I work with residents and a hand fellow here, and it'd be great for education. And I talked about all the just sort of the immediate impacts that the device could have in that respect. And within 24 hours, they said, "Yep, you've been accepted." So wow. They got it shipping, and then I sent an email to a couple of my partners, Dr. Safet Haddock, who's been on Google Plus and done a hangout with us in Australia before, and then Dr. Brent Bamberger. I said, "Hey guys, check this out," and they literally got theirs the next day when they applied for them. So there's 3 of us in our group, and we've been playing with Glass and trying to get some things going with it.
So when you first, did you first bring it to the clinic, or you didn't go right to the OR with it, right?
I had to wait till I got these guys to take it to the OR. So these are my surgical loops that I had Design Provisions set up for me. And what basically when it comes to hand surgery, everything on the hand's pretty small. You got nerves and blood vessels that are millimeter in diameter or less, and so you kind of like to have these on board so you have a good look at what you're dealing with. And so I literally didn't feel comfortable taking them to the OR until I had these made. And thankfully, guys at Design Provisions had pretty quick turnaround when it came to getting this set up, and they sent it out, and I mean, it works perfectly. So since that took probably about 4 to 6 weeks from start to having them on my face, and then I got to start using the Glass in the OR. So up to that point was mostly sort of just playing with its functionality, checking out in a more social standpoint, and now it's more down to business.
Now, how about the hospital administration? Were they kind of skeptical about it, or did they know about it, or?
Our chief informatics officer at the network, he knew about them, and he was excited. He was actually excited just to see people from the orthopedic department at their monthly meeting. But yeah, we talked about them and approached them about using this in the operating room, and they said absolutely no problem. We'll treat it as a bring your own device type, like a tablet or a smartphone that you want to bring and use in the hospital, and it has no problems getting clearance with that. So.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So yeah, I guess it's just like having a camera in the operating room. I'm sure they didn't. That's not a hard thing to do, correct?
Right. Yeah. The trickiest thing, of course, that people have sort of talked about with glass is their Google's automatic capturing of the photos and video that you take. Now, early on, you could disconnect it from the internet, take your photos, and basically remove them from the device so nothing would get automatically sent to a non-secure location. Now they're up with these updates. They're actually automatically sending photos whether you have a Wi-Fi connection or not. And so I haven't gone through the steps of totally stripping down the device and making it, a strict medical only unit. It still has the standard Google software with some add-ons, but I think the next step is going to be to make them, a totally medical only device so that it can be secure and compliant. I've just stopped taking pictures.
Right. Well, I guess Google's put in their app store the live stream, the video streaming. Just the other day, they announced it. Did you see that?
Yeah, I looked at that. Yeah.
Are you going to use that?
I don't know how. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what Paul thinks about that from a compliance standpoint, whether or not that's going to be in jeopardy or not.
You mean as far as
Paul?
being able to stream with it? You should be able to stream with it as long as you're not actually streaming, health information data. It's really no different than the Hangout. I mean, it just depends on your hospital's policy. Our particular, policy. I mean, we've been streaming video for conferences. The whole entire web surge site would be like a massive, like, I don't know if you've ever been to web search, Dave, or web surge, but I mean, it's all nothing but like cases and stuff. You know what I mean? That people have filmed, and so it'd be difficult, I think, to stop you from doing that as long as you're not transmitting health information data. Now, the live stream I think is a little bit different though, because you have to actually create like kind of an open like link or something, right? That everybody can just kind of go to, and then you stream live to it.
Do you have to get the patient consent with everything, or just certain things?
I do. I consent them for every ounce of everything that I'm planning on doing, and then I consent them again, and you know what I mean? Like get it notarized and bloodlet and all that other stuff. Like
yeah, you got to make sure that there's a true informed consent about what you're planning on doing.
But I think yeah, you got to be careful. I mean, definitely with the streaming, theoretically you should be able to do. Even recording a video, you really should be able to do. Now the issue becomes with like Dave said, this auto backup that they've added in there. See, when I used to do like the videos and the stuff at the beginning, I would just keep it not connected to the internet, like Dave was saying, and then just download it to my computer and wipe the device when we were done, just like any camera essentially. And so then it falls right under the camera policy. But I think it could be potentially a little bit more difficult. As long as they're not recording the streams, I don't know how it would fall under anything different than our video policy, to be honest with you. But I'm sure that somebody will find a reason to make that. And I have to look through. We got a paper we just submitted to JAMA, and we're trying to wait to hear back about that. And it's myself and Chad Priest and Nicholas Terry. They're two attorneys from IU, and they're gonna. Nick will be talking on the Hangouts, and they'll be presented at the conference and really go over all this mobile technology, sort of healthcare law, and these are like some of the questions maybe we should ask them. You know what I mean? Kind of keep a log of this kind of thing, and really go through it. I just provided the medical sort of background end of it. You know what I mean? As far as the case and all that stuff, these guys are the ones that know the stuff.
Right. I think especially important to consider is the fact that when HIPAA was, written into law, there was nowhere near the technology that we have today. And so, I don't think it was designed to be such an obstructive law. It was written with the right intents and purpose, but it had no idea to foresee the effects of technology and the barriers that it puts on technology. So it'd be interesting to look at maybe a HIPAA update.
That applies to a lot of areas of learning. I was in a malpractice case last week, a 17-year-old malpractice case. I hope you guys never get involved with something like that. But the way they were giving instructions to the jury, I mean, the internet's around everywhere. The judge had to go out of his way to say, don't you dare look at the internet about this case, because, and the kids are, they're going to go home and first thing they're going to do is look at their smartphone and Google the people involved and stuff.
Well, they go to take a bathroom break and they could do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I know it's everywhere. To tell a jury not to look at the internet, man, that's like saying not to go to the bathroom, for God's sake. Nowadays,
they'll be looking at it in their glasses while they're trying the case, right? Like when they actually integrate them in something like.
It affects law too, as well as medicine. The changing of the law and what's right and what's legal, what's illegal, and stuff like that.
Well, it's funny because it's classic. The attorneys are actually using Hangouts and different things for consultations with the clients, but yet it's all strange about us using it to talk to a patient. I mean, yet it's just like everything else in the world, and they've got to figure out how to hose us if they have to.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you saw the hangout yesterday I had with Ronnie Bincer, but he mentioned that. He mentioned the fact that attorneys are starting to use that because obviously those consultations are just as private as a doctor-patient. No client wants the lawyer to publicize what goes on behind closed doors.
Well, so, there's probably just as many people, if not more people, looking to hack into that as there is in, like you seeing somebody in the office. I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, it's frustrating. I'm sure it's frustrating for you guys. It seems that sometimes education is stymied because of privacy concerns and security. When a lot of times patients probably really don't care about certain things, but you're liable. I mean, you're liable if you make a mistake. I guess you're subject. Do you guys know anybody that's been fined by HIPAA or punished by HIPAA? Personally, do you know anybody that's been?
The group I was at before my current group had a break-in, and to our knowledge, there was no actual data stolen. But because there was data available to be looked at, then they had to go through all of these avenues as far as setting up basically a call line for these potential patients' charts that could have been compromised, and they had to send out a news report to let the public know that there was a break-in and there was the potential for medical record compromise, even though there's no proof that records were compromised. It was the potential existed, and had to go through all these steps. And I don't know about any fines necessarily, but it was a huge headache for the group.
Wow. Well, I'm glad I'm not part of that. So, Dave, just getting back to like the glass and hand surgery, do you actually use it while you're operating and looking at what place does it have in hand surgery right now?
So right now, I mean, using it for basic things, it's good at. I'm surprised at how easily my eyes got adjusted from switching from looking through the loops, doing the surgery, looking up out of the loops to to the room around you, getting a wide field perspective, and then glancing up at glass. I mean, it's not. People say, well, there's no way you can see what you need to see. It must be pretty crowded, but it's really easy to get used to. That was one thing I was very pleasantly surprised about, because when you have to wear loops, you start getting a lot of stuff in your field of vision, but it's a really natural transition between looking through what you need to and seeing at each stage. Right now, very simple functionalities I'm using them for, the pictures to show families afterwards, let them know what it looks like to release a nerve in your elbow or fix a broken bone in your wrist with the patient's permission. They seem to love that. I use my cell phone as my pager, and so I can get pages coming across my glass as far as, hey, you got a patient in the ER with a broken this or broken that, and then I can kind of know what I need to check into after the case is over. The rare occasion is if there's sort of a true emergency that comes across, say, a person with what's called compartment syndrome, where there's crush injury, pressure in your forearm, and you're worried about the muscles and nerves dying. That's a true emergency that if you had to wait till the end of the case, you may be wasting valuable time for that patient. So that's come across once, and I just asked the nurse, hey, can you call this number back and find out what's going on with this patient? And that didn't interrupt the case or anything, didn't interrupt the flow of what I was doing, and actually got that patient the care they needed in a much more timely fashion than if I had to wait till the case was over to get that going.
Do you do re-implantations? Do you do amputations, finger amputations?
Amputations, replantations, yeah, microsurgery, that sort of thing. When it comes to microsurgery, I mean, you got a 20x microscope in your face, so you're not going to have your glass on when you're doing something like that. But
oh, really?
Yeah. So, but for a lot of the other stuff, I mean, it's very useful. Yeah,
the loops. I guess the loops must have taken a while to get used to, but I guess you had that probably from day one, right? In hand surgery.
When you first start, when you go into orthopedic surgery, and you have you can specialize in anything from hips and knees to spine to trauma. I knew I wanted to do hand pretty early on, and so I had to get used to loops pretty early on. And I took to them pretty quickly, pretty well. It wasn't really hard for me. There are some people who literally get nauseous when you're looking through loops and then looking out of your loops because you have to change your focus and your depth, but it comes pretty second nature now. So.
Yeah, loops is pretty standard. I mean, pretty much anybody going through general surgery or any kind of surgical residency, for the most part, there's very few that won't get loops. I mean, I have a pair. I use it about once or twice a year because I don't do a lot of. I'm more of a big pipe guy, and so and so I don't really need them that much. But occasionally I'll use them, and we all get them for vascular surgery and different things. You get pretty used to them. That's why I think for me, I mean, and I'm sure David would second this, it's just not a big stretch to wear a glass or some form of glasses in the future because, we all wear, whether it's what I got on or, you know what I mean, like more like what Dave's got on, some sort of shield no matter what. And so, to integrate these things that he's talking about, I mean, it's every single day when I'm operating that a nurse will miss or forget to answer or not answer a page or, what have you. And all that and being able to control your daily flow and the flow of patient care and everything real time without interrupting what you're currently doing is very important, like Dave said.
Well, how long of a learning curve was it for you guys to really get used to glass in the OR? Does it take like a month or so, or a couple of days, or was it real quick?
It takes a couple of hours, in my opinion. The thing about glass is it's very user-friendly and intuitive. You learn pretty quickly what the limitations are, some of the things you're going to have to try to overcome that really that comes from a programming side. Really, there are some just basic limitations of it that it's not designed to overcome, and so then that's where you get friendly with the Chris Vukins and the other folks in the world that can help program those workarounds. But it's really intuitive and easy to use.
I would agree with David. I mean, I think the earlier you started, there was a limited number of functions. I think we're starting to add things, and guys are starting to program, but it looks a lot sexier when you first get it. Then you figure it out, and you kind of figure out how to do it. And it's little things like that they haven't quite worked out the kinks. So like you can start a video, but you can't stop it. So you gotta have deal with different things like that. I mean, start it, so it really didn't take a lot to get used to it, and it's voice command to get the basics going. So, I think it took more to actually figure out how to tether it to the Bluetooth appropriately, so that somebody in the operating room could help me out with a tablet, like a Galaxy tablet or something, if I needed using a screencast, if I needed them to switch back to X-rays and things like that. Because when we originally started doing it, we didn't have any way to really upload X-rays, and so we were sort of reverse loading them through Hangouts and things like that. They were scrubbed CTs and things like that, so that they weren't any kind of public information or anything, nothing that you couldn't find on the internet, anyway. And so that was really Google's sort of fix for that, was to reverse load them up through a Hangout. So you really sometimes, to get them, you had to swipe back, and so there was no other way to search it. So I had to have somebody, holding the tab and go back and pull them up for me, because when it turned off, I don't know if you used it for X-rays, Dave, or how you guys did that.
Yeah, I mean, recently there was some of these third-party apps that allow you to either type notes or send images directly to Glass, and so those have made it a lot easier than the reverse Hangout thing. And it's definitely a challenge where I will leave it at, wait for things to come, because I'm working with those guys at Context Aware, John Scott and his crew, and they basically come to me and say, what things do you wish you could have? And I tell them, like, yeah, we can do that. So they're really, it's sort of a, what's your wish list, let's make it happen kind of thing. And I think, remind me again, John, when is the Context Aware talk? Is that next week, that Hangout?
Yeah, you guys are the 11th, right? I think
that's what it is. Yeah, I think it's next week Thursday. So John Scott will be on here, and we can get a little taste preview of what's to come for the Watch Conference, because we'll all be there at the Watch Conference as well, sort of unveiling a prototype of the Context Aware software that they're working on. So it's going to be pretty sweet. I can just say that.
Well, I don't know, Paul, if you have a close relation with a developer or an app guy, but I think most doctors are going to develop a relationship with some developer, even a glass designer, someone that designs the shape of the Google Glass. There's a guy, I don't know if you met Edward Huang. He's doing a fellowship in medical devices down in Houston, and he's a glass lover, and he actually changes the shape of Google Glass. And I told him yesterday, I talked to him yesterday, I said, man, you got a good career, because Google Glass is going to change shape. This is just starting. Every particular niche in medicine is going to have their own shape of Google Glass, depending upon its needs. Do you guys have anything to say about that?
As far as the tech fellowship, I've seen you some of your guys' posts back and forth, and I was interested in what it actually means to do a tech fellowship. Kind of wish that was around when I was coming through, but it's
medical device fellowship.
Yeah, that's exciting. The challenge is, I think at this point, what we want to do is kind of hammer out some of the sort of possibilities, but I wouldn't finalize any products for any of these platforms at this stage, just because from what I've seen and read and heard, that how much things are going to change. It's more of, okay, let's see what we can do and then prepare for the future. If from a programming standpoint, if it's not going to change too much, that's where the biggest sort of bang for your buck would be right now, is to try to develop these apps, these programs that are actually going to work. As far as the hardware itself, what things are going to look like, how are they going to fit, where the camera's going to be, where it's aiming, a lot of that stuff is going to change just by nature of the design process. And so although it's great to have loops on the current iteration of Google Glass, is this something that's going to be mass produced in the future? Probably not, just because of how the design is going to change. So it's going to be exciting to see how it changes and who really drives that. But as it stands right now, I think working with folks, like you talked about, from a programming standpoint, to get that language written to make these more useful, I think is going to help things.
What do you think the most important feature of Google Glass? You think it's the screen, having the screen? You don't think that'll change in any iteration of Glass for any particular specialty? That's the one killer part of it, of the whole thing.
I mean, I think having the screen, whether it's a prism or whether it's an embedded screen in the lens itself, having this information available to you hands-free, and I really like the out of your field of vision aspect of it, is what's killer about it. I think Paul, have you played with some of those augmented reality device goggles or glasses that really
Yeah, I mean,
put everything in your face?
a little bit. You know, I mean, like, I think I actually was one of the guys who got in on Tier 1 pretty early, and I was very disappointed that I just heard that they were going Enterprise because I was trying to get them. You know, I'm wearing these glasses, and I did get them off a Chinese website, and it was a bit of a joke, but at the same time, it's not. Because this is very, very close to what it looked like. Our camera could be right here in the middle where you see this laser pointer, and I really bought these more for looking at prototypes for the future, and really I think, like you're referring to, it's going to go binocular, and I think one of the really, sort of interesting things about that Ether device was it had that integration of where you could move things in space without, just kind of reach out in front of you and move it over here, because I think you're 100% right. I want to be able to get it out of my field of view, but I want to be able to bring it back in too, or kind of move things around and set them up. And I think it's going to look very similar to something like I'm wearing right here in the future. And so I think it's going to have digital zoom in it and everything like that, and hopefully some kind of binocular feature. But yeah, I mean, I got these, like I said, as a bit of a joke, but I did buy them on purpose just to look at them for prototyping of different things, like just to kind of get an idea what the things we could do, especially for surgery.
Have you guys used anything else other than Google Glass? Like this, I heard someone mention yesterday, Meta Glass. That's another type of Google Glass, or something different, a different company altogether.
I haven't got my hands on the Meta. The Meta is an interesting one. That's about $3,000, and I don't know that on it per se yet. Do you know if you can, Dave?
I don't think so.
The only one that I know you can get your hands on.
Another company.
And we may have one at the conference is the Vuzix. They do have one that's a little bit different. It's a sort of a projection a little bit lower. And I could actually, let me see if I have the Oakley ones for snowboarding. And I don't know if you've seen those. It actually has the same screen, but it's actually the Google, similar to the Google, but it's down at the bottom of the goggles. I don't know where they are. I'll see if they're in here. Let me see if I got them in my office here.
I think
snowboarders trick them out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, they're pretty sweet. I'll show you. Let me see if I can.
While Paul's looking for those, there's the Epson Movero is another pair that you can get your hands on. They're more reasonably priced than Google Glass. I've seen Timothy Clemens on Google Plus testing out his. It seems like there is much more of a in-your-face type of platform.
Are those ridiculous ones that just came out from overseas? They're like huge, or they look huge in the face, kind of, or they look like glass, but they're like way bigger.
It's not like an Oculus Rift ripoff, is it? Just a huge helmet on your face. Not quite.
You see, I probably don't have any battery here. I don't know if you guys can see in these, but right down here is actually, it's very hard to see, but this is the similar. I don't know if I got it close enough.
Yeah, you can see that.
That's actually the screen, and then it doesn't really necessarily project up, since I'm going with all kinds of different looks today.
Wow. That's the augmented reality, right?
I got all kinds of stuff going on here.
That right there is just a pair of snowboarding goggles that has a display in the bottom right corner. So
okay.
Yeah, so right here, it has your speed, your altitude. You can do, anything you can almost do in the glass, you can do right here. And this is made by a company called Recon Instruments, who makes the actual instrumentation that's in there. I originally got these to sort of, we were looking at what, we thought originally it would project up onto the actual glasses, but it's like looking in the little Google Glass lens down at the bottom. So it's actually a little bit hard to do this and look down than it is to look up into the Google Glass, to be honest with you.
Okay, so Meta Glass is the other biggie, huh? And Epson, what's that, Dave? You said Epson?
Epson Movero.
Movero.
M-O-V-E-I-R-O, I believe is how you spell it. And they have a couple of iterations that are available that people can get their hands on. I have not played with it. Looks like it would be promising, but again, it's hard to tell whether or not it's going to have a lot of information in your face or whether it's out in your periphery. But yeah, that Athere one, that looked pretty sweet. Unfortunately, it's
What does that go for? 500?
The Epson Movero, I think, was $500 or $700. I think it was.
Okay. You know, we talk all the time about Google.
Yeah, I think the
Glass.
Epson was 6 or 7. And then the Athere was going to be 5.
What was the Athere?
I think it was going to go
Is
for
there
like
any
500.
other wearable that you think we should cover?
Pardon, John?
Is there any other wearables you think we should cover besides Google Glass? I know we spend a lot of time on Google Glass. Is there any type of other wearable you think that we need to go after and educate people about?
I'm wearing my Fitbit right now, and I think the whole bracelet, the smart bracelet, smart watch thing is going to be huge. Not necessarily in the field of surgery, but field of healthcare, it's going to be gigantic. I mean, with all these platforms.
They haven't really come yet, right? They haven't really come on the market, right?
They're coming. There's Motorola is slated for the fall. I believe LG's got their watch out, and Samsung has their second generation watch coming out. It's they're talking about integrating those with the different health platforms, whether it's the Apple's health platform or Google's health platform, or even Samsung has their own health kit SAMI platform. I mean, there's all sorts of interest in wearable tech and healthcare. It's just as a surgeon, I mean, you're sterile from your fingertips to your elbow, so you're not going to have any bracelet or myo control or anything like that on, because that's just in the way.
Have you guys had any experience with a leap motion where you're moving x-rays with your hands and stuff, or moving studies with your hands in the OR? I ran across someone that uses that.
What were you going to say, Paul?
Oh, I just said I haven't seen that or used that. I've seen like the Myo used for for manipulating CT scans and things like that by spinning, and things like that. We're working with the Myo pretty extensively. I think everybody, like you said, has a relationship. And so I've been working with Chris and Evermed pretty closely to do some stuff, and we've started integrating the Myo into different things. And I think, some people are worried because it goes on about right here. They say they can't scrub high enough, but I mean, I don't know. I think that's plenty of high if you get into this area. I mean, in my own practice,
you got the Myo working way up there. It's not too far up for the Myo.
The what?
I was saying you've got Myo to work in this region of the forearm. I thought it had to be a little further down with the different muscle
I saw him wearing it right in this area. I mean, I haven't actually tried it on myself, to be honest with you. I got a video somewhere of one of our programs integrated with it, and it looked like it was right in this area. I'm waiting for mine, actually. I talked to Stephen Lake, the CEO of Thalamic, the other day, and we're going to be working with them. So he's supposed to give me one out here to test the app. I haven't actually had it on my wrist. I think everybody's interested to see if we can scrub and use it. I don't know if you've tried it on.
I haven't. I've just from what I saw, it looked like it was a little further down the arm. But hey, if you get it up high enough, I mean, especially with hand surgery, it's practically stuff you can do in your office anyway. So you hardly need to scrub, right?
I would say that the going up to the elbow, I mean, I think it's an old-fashioned thing. I think it's one of those things where if you really studied it and if you double-gloved, I don't think it would make any difference, to be honest with you. But I'm usually dealing with people with holes all over their bowels and things like that from gunshots and different varieties of things. So it's probably not the most sterile environment anyway.
Yeah, that's probably right. Yeah, with the Leap motion controller, I haven't used it in the OR, but I am working with a local programmer on a completely different sort of application for it. And so once we get a little further along with that, I'll start spreading the news on social networks about what we're doing with it. But we're doing some pretty sweet stuff with that Leap motion controller. I think that thing's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm meeting with a guy on Friday from a company called TEDCAS, TEDCAS. They're based in Spain. I guess they do a lot of, it's a variation of the Leap motion. I'm kind of curious as to see what they're doing, but I think it has to do with hand gestures in the OR for surgery.
Yeah, I saw one of their videos about controlling an MRI for like a neurosurgical case where you just hover his hand over it and swipe the images over, and it seems pretty cool because it's sterile. You're not touching anything. So.
Well, I suspect we're going to see something pretty cool at the conference. I just got off the phone today with Medtronic, who's they're gonna unveil their sort of path of where they're going at the conference, and they're gonna show how they're, from what I understand, is their integration of their stealth technology and different neurosurgical stuff that they have with glass and different controlling motions and different things like that. So hopefully that'll be kind of exciting. I think we're going to add that to the first day of the talk schedule.
Awesome.
Well, this is not a medical thing, you guys, but I really foresee the day that in a not too distant future where we'll be sitting at our desktops and not really using the keys. We'll be going like this to different screens, and we'll be checking our email, without even touching a keyboard.
You won't even have to be at your desktop, John. You're going to be walking down the street, catching your subway to work, and you're going to be doing that, seeing the screens around and swiping them and checking it.
Yeah, I really see the day. Yeah, when you sit down and eat a sandwich, and there's a screen on the wall, and you just kind of go boop, 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 and there's screens everywhere. I mean, really. I
have your 3D printer print out that sandwich that you wanted.
Screenified. I saw that word. I loved it. Screenified. Screenified.
Yep.
Well, I think that was one of the most attractive things, like I said, with the Theer, and that's why I jumped on their campaign right away because when I started getting into this, I saw a lot of potential with their device for what we were doing in the OR, mainly because, like you said, because I can put vitals, and then I can move the X-rays over here, and anything I want I can put in different spots, and you were able to adjust those. And if you wanted to pull one in and look at it right in front of you, you were able to do that. At least that's what they advertise you could do. I think it's obviously going to take some programming, but
right. It looked like it actually had sort of augmented reality memory where you could put something sort of over here, look away from it, and you can actually look back and it would remember that it was there. That's sort of what that video made it look like. I'm like, that is hilarious. That would be just amazing because that way you could have stuff as big as you need to see it for the detail that you need.
Right.
And yet it's not totally obstructing your view. You could be looking down at your case and then it remembers that your image is up here out of your field, and then you look up towards it and the image is still there. Stuff like that is just, it's coming. It's got to be coming, and it would be exceedingly helpful.
Yeah, the future looks good for you guys in the OR. Well, things are going to change.
Oh yeah. As long as we keep our sight on what's most important, like we talked about when we first started talking about the value of medicine. As long as we keep the value of medicine in mind, I think we're going to be in good shape.
Okay, gentlemen. I'm going to hit the road. Anything else we need to cover?
I just want to say thanks for this opportunity. Thanks for everything that you're doing in anticipation of this Watch conference. It's going to be a good one.
It's a labor of love, and I tell you, this is going to be the best conference around.
Absolutely, we're looking forward to it.
You guys, I already heard from another conference, a health conference that I was introduced to by the Celine, the gentleman that does ankle and foot surgery on the 17th.
Yeah.
He introduced me to someone that's doing a conference with a smart hospital. It's a company in Nashville, which, by the way, I guess Nashville is a center of hospital organizations. I didn't realize that. They have huge organizations in Nashville, but they have some kind of smart conference. The gentleman's interested in talking to me about doing this kind of thing with hangouts and pre-conference type of thing. So that. Yeah, I gotta pay the rent. You guys are paying the rent. Operate. I gotta pay the rent somehow. So.
Hey, well, congratulations, John. That's why that's one of the reasons we're supporting you to do this. We appreciate it. It's a great idea you had, and that's why the Watch board decided to support you in this, and we appreciate how you're supporting us. Because it's
Absolutely.
it's done wonders for our effort, and that's what we're about. We're about everybody having a chance to innovate and show how they can change the world of medicine. And I think this is the start of it that you got going here, and we're more than happy to participate.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, and thanks, Dave, for introducing me. This is a fantastic opportunity. Just Dave, I was looking for a conference. I don't know if I told you that. When you approached me, I was looking for one.
Yeah. It's all about timing, right, John? It's all about timing.
The gods were in my favor that day, I think. So they were in my favor that day. So, all right, guys, have a good night.
Take care, John. Thank you.
Take care, Dave. Thanks for helping out tonight.
Thank you, Paul. See ya.
Take care.